Hi, Madonna, Louise, Veronica Ciccone here.
When will you understand that I am a person and not a thing?
Look it up.
Do something else. Do my eyebrows.
Better to say, am I being true to myself? And is this what I want to say? And have I expressed myself the way I want to express myself? I mean, that's what it's all about.
Hey everyone, this is Corvette Hunt from Madonna's Glam Squad, and you are listening to MLVC, the Madonna podcast.
Hey guys, it's Tony, and it doesn't pay to be a runaway lover.
Indeed, it does not. Hey everyone, it's Stefan. Welcome to another episode of MLVC, the Madonna podcast, your place for all things Madonna, Louise, Veronica Ciccone. As you heard today on the show, we welcome a member of Madonna's Glam Squad, Corvette Hunt. Welcome, Corvette. Hi.
Hi, boys.
Welcome, Corvette. We're so excited to have you on.
Hi, Stefan. Hi, Tony. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, and you've come prepared. You've got a little bit of Madonna in the background, I see.
I do. That I do. That's a painting that I painted when I was in high school. I was
so cool.
I was on the verge of failing out, and I had all these PE absences, and my art teacher was gay. My counselor was also gay, and they made this arrangement that I could do like an advanced placement art class, and it was so ridiculous because like this is a class for somebody who's super focused and knows what they're doing. I was none of those things. They were just trying to not fail me and give me a diploma so I could get on with my life. And I never showed up to this studio, and and every day they would say, "What are you working on?" I said, "I'm working on something so big. I promise. It's amazing. It's gorgeous. I'm going to blow your mind. It's a masterpiece." But I had nothing, and I had nothing at all. And then one day my teacher was like, "You're not going to have a diploma." And I said, "No, I have something. I promise." I went home. And I think I was just inspired by this Herb Ritts photograph from the True Blue era. And I said, I'm going to paint Madonna. And I already had this huge canvas because I had stretched the canvas because I said, I'm going to do this big painting. I stayed up for 2 days painting this painting that's behind me. And I brought it in, and they gagged, and I got to graduate from high school without going
that's
to
amazing.
PE. Yeah.
I'm looking at it, and I'm like, this is so cool, because I remember in my art class sketching like Gautier, the costumes, and failing. I got a D, and I'm so glad that you made it for all of us, what I mean?
I did somehow. It's a little off. I nailed the lips. I got the lips. I got the eyelids and the lashes. The boobs are a little off. Like once it goes down, it's like the proportions are a little off. But it's whatever. I graduated.
You're gonna have to. I can't see it too clearly from here, but you're gonna send us a high-res snap of it a little later.
I will.
Okay, sorry, we're jumping massively ahead.
No, that's fine. So, Stefan, where the hell are you? It sounds like you're in Grand Central Station.
Oh, sorry. Yes, to everyone listening, I apologize. I'm. By the time everyone listens to this, it won't be summertime anymore. But I'm currently summering at a little shanty in Asbury Park, New Jersey. And it's rush hour traffic on the corner, and people apparently don't have mufflers here in Asbury Park.
Wow.
So if you hear traffic, that's why. I apologize.
Well, they don't seem to have mufflers here in Brooklyn either, because it's just loud AF. But it's okay, it's the beat of the city, right?
Yeah, we'll get through it. Corvette, where are you hailing from?
I live in Brooklyn. I live in Brooklyn Heights, and you could hear a pin drop here. Like we have cicadas in the trees here. So it sounds like we're in the backwoods sometimes. But
no, you're right. I was over in your area. I was walking in the promenade, not walking the promenade, walking on the promenade.
Okay.
And I was noticing, I was like, it's so quiet over here, and there's such a nice breeze. I was like, what am I doing over there?
But do you know that the BQE is right underneath you when you're walking on that?
I was going to say, aren't they starting to like redo the BQE before it falls down?
I
think so, but you know what? You don't really hear it, and that's a mitzvah.
It's a mitzvah. It's an architectural genius, whatever, that it is right there, and you don't hear it.
Oh, it's so cool. Well, before we get any further, I'm going to give Corvette a proper introduction. How about that?
Thank you.
Born in Denver, Colorado, Corvette left for New York City in 1993 with a dream of becoming something different, someone different. After arriving in Manhattan with $50 in a suitcase, he earned a scholarship to the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater. I'm sorry, this just all sounds really familiar. Where he studied modern dance for 2 years until discovering the colorful medium of drag. Corvette quickly became one of the many downtown luminaries working the 90s club scene in 6-inch stilettos as door girl, hostess, DJ, dancer at legendary spots such as Roxy, Jackie 60, Limelight, The Tunnel, Sound Factory.
Oh,
and
so good.
I'm sure I ran into you at the Pyramid Club because that's where I pretty much lived when I moved here. In his off-time, Corvette Hunt is a writer and a dad. I mean, the greatest job available, I think. His works have been published at Huffington Post, Queer Voices, Hot Lit, and the New York Times. He lives in Brooklyn with his husband and his aforementioned son. Welcome.
Thank you.
Hey, that's a storied past, let me tell you. Just the New York nightlife alone, the fact that you survived and made it out of that, good for you.
I can't believe we made it through that. Some parts of it are still some parts of it are still there. You know, there are certain days where I hear a bass line in my head and like, oh, that is Arena from the Palladium. Like it's still in there.
Yeah, I was moving apartments just recently, and I was going through stuff trying to purge a bunch of random items that I've held on for way too long, and I came across a boatload of matchbooks, one of which was from The Tunnel, and I thought, I cannot get rid of this. I can't. I cannot throw out my Tunnel matchbook.
They don't do matchbooks anymore.
I know.
No, they don't.
Nobody does that. Right.
Yeah, and I also was, over the pandemic cleaning everything out, and I found all these flyers too. And yeah, they don't do flyers anymore.
No, it's all
Instagram
virtual.
posts.
Yeah.
It's all online. Yeah.
Boring.
Well, before we do a deep dive, let's talk about Corvette's Madonna journey. I know you have one, so tell us how you discovered Madonna and where that took you.
I do. I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back. I'm going to take you to 1983.
Take us back in time. Here we go. Traveling back.
Okay. Do you really want to go back to 1983?
Everyone pop on your jelly bracelets. Tease up your hair.
Absolutely. So, and for a queer boy, that style, those looks, that street style, like 100% life-changing to have, to be able to accessorize and do stuff really cheap and wear eyeliner that doesn't cost any money, and but also like those times were, they were Reagan years, and I lived in the suburbs. There was AIDS, and my family was in the church, and so I, being a queer boy, I was very lonely. I was depressed, and I was a very, very suicidal kid because there was this horrible thing that was inside me. There was this thing that I knew I had inside of me, and every authority in my life, my counselors, my church, my parents, they were telling me that the best thing for me to do would be to hide this thing. And even better than hide it would be to get rid of it. If I could correct it and get rid of it, that would be the best thing. But if I couldn't do that, which I tried, but if I couldn't do that, then I would need to hide it. And that was what brought suicidal feelings, because I thought, if I can't get rid of this thing, if every morning I wake up, it's here, I would change the prayer to just not waking up, and that was a terrible place to be. Also, there was AIDS, so it felt very real. Like I believed the authorities had a lot of weight, what their message was. And then all of a sudden, one day, there was this voice that came through the radio. And this voice was different. This music had a very specific sound. So there was this music, and it was so specific to me. And this music transported me because it came from a specific place. It had a specific voice. And back in those days, like if you heard a song on the radio you loved, you had to call the radio if they didn't tell you who it was. And you had to find that song. You had to find that artist. And And finally, I called a record store and I was singing the song to them. And they were like, that song is not called Celebrate. That song is called Holiday. And the artist is Madonna, and we don't have that record yet, but it's coming. And I remember going to the record store every day looking for that record. And when it finally came out, I lost my mind because of the image on the cover and the image on the back. It was so sexy and so raw. And I took it home, and it just opened up a whole world to me. And, and through that album and through a Madonna obsession, I started to learn about New York. And also I started to learn about her message that was, she didn't accept shame. People tried to shame her, and she did not accept it. And I never saw an example of that in my life.
Yeah.
I never also, there were gay artists, but gay artists back then didn't talk about being gay. And so she just showed me this concept that, I took to heart, and I thought, maybe I'm not supposed to hide this thing inside of me. That's where my frustration is coming from. Maybe my job isn't to hide it. Maybe my job is to be it. And when that concept blew me away, and it rid me of every ounce of depression and suicidal thoughts. I just wanted to live, and I wanted to be this thing, because I already was this thing. There was not a closet big enough for me when I was a kid. I was flamboyant. I walked funny. People thought I was a girl. I was androgynous. I was a mess.
Yeah.
But once I applied this concept, I was not a mess. I'm like, I'm a beautiful mess. I'm a human being, and I'm going to be this thing. And then, I turned 22, and I was in a bad place in Colorado. Nothing was working. I had a boyfriend. He broke my heart. Nobody understood me. And I just thought, you know what? I'm going to leave. I'm going to go to New York. And I knew the Madonna story. Of course, everybody knows she took $49.
I had a dream.
I wanted to be a big star.
I didn't know anybody. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. I didn't know anybody was such a big thing for me, because that's what everybody said when I told them. I said, you guys, I told every person that didn't believe in me. I told my boyfriend who broke my heart. I told my mom. I said, I'm leaving. And they were like, you don't know anybody. I said, I don't have to. I know this already. I know this story. I can do it. And I sold my Madonna sex book. It was the only thing I had of value. I bought a bus ticket. And then I went to every person that I knew was doubting me. And I said, I'm going to do this. And I'm going to find my people. And I'm going to fall in love, hopefully. And I'm going to live an artistic life. And they're just looking at me like I'm insane. And then I said, okay, and you know what else? I'm going to meet Madonna, and I'm going to tell her thank you, because she saved my life. And that was the period on my mission, and I got on the bus and never looked back.
You were in the club scene in New York. I read, I think, in an extended version of your bio in 1999, you wore a giant red pheasant feather mohawk to the Sound Factory, an iconic club in New York City, or RIP Sound Factory, which is now near NYU dorms. And that feather mohawk earned you notice and an invitation to try out for Madonna and win a position on the Glam team for her highly anticipated Drown World Tour. So first, I want to know, what does a tryout entail for the Glam squad?
Yeah,
and
how
then,
does that happen?
Like, what exactly does a tryout mean? And then how did that call, how did getting that call change your life?
Yeah, like, is there a test? I mean, does she, like, you have 2 minutes to do an entire face, and then she, like, throws pitfalls at you, like, do something else, do my ear, or I don't know. I mean, but yeah, what is the tryout like? My mind is exploding.
Okay. So I'm just going to say, like, the whole thing is a tryout. It's every day working there in that environment is a tryout. And it's stressful, and things get thrown at you, and you just have to do them to the best of your ability. But then you also have to perfect it. And then you have to make M happy. And a lot of these tasks that come to you seem pretty impossible. I've learned now that they're not. But I'm going to go back before I can even tell you what a tryout is, because also not everything happens the way it's supposed to.
Of course.
I'm going to go back to the feather. I'm going to go back to the red feather mohawk.
So you're wearing a feather mohawk
Yeah.
in the Sound Factory. Who came up to you?
So I'm going to set the scene a little bit here, and I'm going to answer your question. But so this is in 2000. So this is Giuliani era in New York City. The nightclubs are shutting down. There's a huge gentrification. The clubs owed us all money if we were working at the nightclubs. Like for months, they owed us money. And I was getting evicted from my apartment because it was going co-op. Oh. So all this horrible stuff was happening. And I was kind of just like, at that point, I'd been in New York for 9 years, and I was having a self-reflective moment. Like I did not really I've done a lot of the things that I thought I would do, but I haven't completed everything. And I've been here a long time, and I didn't really have a career to speak of, and everything that I was making money at was shutting down. And there was this one night where we had a water leak in our apartment. It ruined half of my rolling rack of things, of drags and stuff. And that's why I ended up stitching together a feather mohawk. I made it out of a jar of pheasant feathers that was on our table in our living room, and I wore it to work. And this man came up to me and said, "Hey, who made your look tonight?" And I said, "I did." And he said, "Oh, fierce, amazing." He said, I tell you what, I'm going to call you one day, and I'm going to give you a really big job opportunity. And I said, "Oh, great. You know, I've heard this one before.
Right.
I know what happens in nightclubs. People talk a big game. You know, somebody always is offering you the world at a nightclub.
Or it's like they're offering you the opportunity to like, come clean up my apartment naked while I take pictures."
Right.
And it's dude, no thank you.
Wear the mohawk, clean my apartment, and a red jock strap. Oh, it's great. I'll do it. I mean, I probably would have done that job too. But yeah, I mean, or, you know, like usually it's like, it would be, "Oh, come do this amazing job." And then I'm in a limo full of queens. And well, either it's no money or it's a lot of money, but it's a weird job where they're like, they shuttle us off to the Hamptons and we're dancing on the tables, and they're like, "Oh, now rip off your wigs and show everybody your boy." And it's like, okay, you know, we'll do it. I'll take the money and run. So I kind of thought I wasn't a stranger to getting weird job offers. But then he never called, you know. And at the time I was working during the day as a wig sales girl at Patfield's, which is where you worked. If you needed a day job, you worked at Pat's. And, you know, I was there during the day. I knew how to make some wigs. I knew how to stitch together a mohawk. And one day this call comes to Pat's. Oh, I'm going to tell you one other thing. So this other thing happened that was really frustrating me. There was an announcement that Madonna was going to be doing a small little show at Roseland Ballroom. Dolce & Gabbana were like doing this whole extravaganza, and they were giving away tickets into nightlife. Every week I'd hear, "Oh, this queen got 3 invites to, did you get your invite? Did you, you know?" So I was like, "No, but I'm going to, because like I'm on a mission here. I'm supposed to meet Madonna. I need to be in this environment that's a small club. I can sneak backstage and I can just go say, I'm who I am, and thank you, you saved my life," you know, like that whole thing. Yeah, I can do that at a place like, right. I'm supposed to get this ticket, and you know, I'm not really getting a ticket, and it's getting closer to the event. And then this guy calls me, and he's like, "Hey, do you remember me?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, I do." And then he's like, "Listen, I have a job for you. It's really important. I know you're the right person for this job. I can't tell you anything. The location's a secret. I can't tell you anything about it. Do you feel you can do this job?" And I said, "How much does it pay?" And he told me how much it paid. And I said, "That's fabulous. I can pay my rent." So I said yes. And I hung up the phone, and I thought, oh my God, that's the same date as the Madonna show. I was like, I can't do this job. I have to call him back. I have to star 69. I have to call him back and not go. But then something inside my head said, bitch, do not call him back. Do not say no. You are getting kicked out of your apartment. You need money. He's paying you. You don't have a ticket to this show. So either, I think it's the first sensible decision I had made in my entire life. I said, I'm going to do the job. So...
Well, in your head, you're thinking, unless Madonna calls me up and offers me money for a job, I can't afford to try and go see her. I can't afford to go see her at this show.
I mean, if I would have gotten a ticket, I would have not shown up at that job, whatever it was. But and then I would have been really upset.
Right.
Because what happens is I get into a cab and I give them the address and I get there and he drops me off at Roseland Ballroom and I look up. And there's a marquee and it says Madonna on it. And I'm freaking out. I get out of the cab. Oh, he also said, just bring everything. So I have shopping bags full of drags and pumps and glitter and sequins and feathers and glue. I have everything with me. And I walk up to this security and I said, hi, hello. And he says... what's your name? And I tell him my name, and he looks down, and he said, I was wondering what you were going to look like. That's an interesting name. And he hands me a laminate with my name on one side and Madonna's picture in a cowboy hat on the other side. I put it around my neck. I'm gagging. I walk into Roseland Ballroom. They're playing Madonna songs.
There's bales of hay. There's a pickup truck.
Well, first there's just a sky full of a night sky full of stars. As you remember, if you were there, that was like these twinkling stars. So it was so surreal. And they're playing What It Feels Like for a Girl. So I'm walking down this hallway and they're playing What It Feels Like for a Girl, and I'm gonna cry, I swear. And because I have the laminate, I know I'm supposed to be there.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden I realize that vocal is not the vocal I'm used to hearing. That is something else. And the minute that clicked in my head, I turned the corner. The ballroom is empty and dark. Nobody's in it except for a ton of security, and Madonna's on stage and she's on her knees and she's just doing sound check. I walked to the middle of that ballroom floor. I don't know. I was so floored. I'm like, oh my God, I'm here. I'm right here. I made it.
I made it.
It's me. You're looking for me too, right? And then all of a sudden I get somebody grabs me by the shoulder and he's like, oh my God. He's like, don't do that. He's like, whatever you do, don't do that again. He's like, let's go. There's a lot of work to do. Don't do that. You will get fired for sure. He's like, everybody's watching you at this point. And I said, okay. So I'm like, okay. And what am I doing here, by the way? Because like, I don't know. And this guy is, his name is Calexius Colby. He was Nikki Harris's makeup artist. I finally learned, he's like, I was going to have you do Donna tonight. Because I saw up on the stage, like, it's Nikki and Donna. I was like, oh my God. And he's like, you were going to do Donna tonight, but there's a problem. He's like, there's a lot of male dancers, and I need you to oil their bodies up, and they need you to bronze their bodies, and they need to look metallic.
First of all, you don't have to pay me anything to oil up some hot male dancers. Like, I'll do that for free.
I mean, you saw that cast, right?
Yeah, the funniest thing.
Exactly.
Beautiful.
The funniest thing about this is that you manifested this, but you couldn't have imagined the men you had to oil down.
No, I could not have imagined. And you know what? I actually had experience in doing that. It was the one thing I could do, because
I think as a gay man, we all have experience oiling down hot men. I mean,
you know how to oil down some muscle, right?
Stop it. We all have been there. Some just like to talk about it more than others, John.
Well, I will say, like, if you hang out, if you're working at the tunnel and you're backstage, those boys need oiling up and they need bronzing, like all the go-go boys. So like we would, like, of course we would like totally help them out, right? Because that's fun for everyone.
Lend a hand.
Yeah, of course. And sometimes you never know. I mean, that scenario could get really deep really quickly, and that was the time, that those things happened, and it was amazing.
We've all seen Magic Mike, we know.
Yeah, so it was just
I never
like
saw
that.
it.
Oh.
Okay, so I was at the Roseland that night, and I think there were like 24 men on stage without shirts on and cowboy hats. And I remember running into my old friend who I haven't seen in years, Richie Rich, and he told me he was working there that night. And I was like, well, what did you do? I was like, what did you do? And he's like,
he roller skated.
You see, well, he did that, but he also, this is what he told me. He's like, you see all those horseshoes? I'm like, yeah. He's like, that was me.
Okay.
Like, okay.
All right. Yeah. I forgot about that. Yeah. A lot of people.
He had to be told how the horseshoes had to like face up instead of down.
Yeah. I forgot. Yeah. I love Richie.
I love him too.
So anyway, so that was my Roseland experience. And so I will get to the question, because the question was actually about a tryout. So after that experience, and I turned it out. I turned those dancers out, because I was like, I don't just know how to bronze them. I'm going to highlight their pectoral muscles, and I'm going to contour. They didn't need it, but I'm like, I'm going to really turn this out. So this guy was impressed, and I think maybe a few months later, I get another call at Pat's, and he's like, hey, what are you doing tomorrow? And I said, what do you need? And I'm like, I'm not going to say anything. And he said, well, I need you to come to Los Angeles. He said, Madonna's doing a tour. It's happening. And we're auditioning for the Glam team. He said, this is going to be, there's a lot of costumes, there's a lot of changes, there's a lot of looks, and one person can't just do this. Because in the past, I think Sharon did everything. I think Mama Makeup she did the whole team. But he's like, there's a lot of pieces to this. We're hiring a small team. I think you'd be perfect. I already have somebody from LA, and there's a lot of people that want this job. So can you come, and we're going to do an audition? And I said, I thought in my head, I can't do this because I'm not really qualified to do that. Like, I worked in a wig boutique, but I had never touched like a human head of hair. So if they said, okay, everybody, first let's blow dry the hair, I would have gone home right away. So again, I'm at this moment where I'm like, I have to make a decision. I'm very insecure. I don't qualify, but if I say no, the journey ends here. And it ends by my hand, by me not even going. But I thought, if I go, I'm risking big failure. I'm risking falling on my face in front of the queen. I don't want to do that either. But yes, won out. And I said, I'm coming. I'm coming for this tryout. I'm freaking out. I didn't tell anybody I was going, because I thought I was going to get sent home really quickly. Right. And I get to the airport that night, and they're like, can you come to his house right now? We're in a crunch, and there's not going to be an audition. M needs to be seeing Glam right away. They're like, she's not having it, that she's not seeing what she needs to be seeing. You have to start work tomorrow. And so I said, okay. I get there. They're like, yeah, there's a whole video shoot. There's like all this new stuff. He's like, there's no time for audition. But if you mess up, you are going home. A million other people want this job, right? So anyway, so I walk into Sony Studios. They're starting production. We're not at the big set. The actual stage is at the Forum. Right. We're working on a smaller set, and I walk in, and there's Nikki, there's Donna, there's the dancers, and you remember she had all these specialty acts. So these dancers are stretching, and if you see Tamara Levinson stretching, it's a performance. Right. And
oh yes,
and there's Luigi Moreno, there's Tony Villanueva, there's Ariane Phillips, and these Gautier sketches all over the table. And I was like, I just want to be here. I like this. I have to stay. I want to be here. I've never been in an environment like this. I have to stay. And then all of a sudden the door opens, big sunlight comes through, and M walks in, blonde hair, Versace shades, shields, and a Stella McCartney tracksuit. And she walks over to our table and she is like, why am I not seeing Glam? What's the problem? I want to see, I can't envision this if I don't see my vision executed. What's going on? And we're just like, okay. And she said, I want to see shaved heads. And we're like, oh, well, all the way shaved? And she said, no, I already did that in Girly Show. I want to see mohawks. I want to see undercuts. If anybody that has hair, I want to see half of it or less than that. And so, then all of a sudden there's this pause. And we're just like, it's so silent. And like, if you remember from Blonde Ambition, if you remember from Truth or Dare.
If somebody who knows about sound doesn't come up here right now, I'm not doing a show.
Thank you. So that pause, that silent moment was, I'm waiting. Like, she doesn't even say that anymore.
I'm terrified right now.
Yeah, we were like, oh, that silence means, why do I not hear buzzers buzzing and clip and hair falling on the floor? Mm-hmm. I told you.
Pick up a pair of scissors.
So we just started shaving their heads, and we just went for it, and by the end of that day, and also at that time when like every bunch of hair that falls to the floor, I'm so relieved because I'm saying that's hair I don't have to deal with. Like I think I got this. I can manage this, And then she comes, like the rehearsal's finishing, and she's getting ready to leave. And like, the signals when she's getting ready to leave. And she comes past our table and she's like, I like what I see. And she keeps walking and I'm freaking out because I was like, okay, she approved something that I did. And she turns back around. She says, okay, but what about Nikki and Donna? Oh my God. We already knew this was going to be a big problem because while we're shaving the heads, Nikki and Donna are looking at us like, you're not shaving my head.
Yeah, we had Nikki and Donna on the show last season, and both of them have told their tales about how they were like, we're not shaving our head. Like Nikki was like, I've just grown it out. And Donna was like, I'll just do little buns. And yeah, they were not having it.
They both had just grown their hair out. And she was like, well, but what about that? And so this is Madonna saying this. So you can't say no. You can't say, and I learned this, like, I'm not even really speaking at this moment. There's the head to the department is doing all the talking. But I learned quickly is like, you don't say no. You don't give an excuse. You don't say, oh, she doesn't really want it. You come up with a solution. And she just said, does anybody here know how to make a mohawk? Can anybody just make a fake mohawk and attach it to Nikki's head? And before I could even think about it, I was like, I do. And she turned around, she looked right at me and she said, okay. She said, I'll see it tomorrow. Make it in red. And I was like, oh my God, tomorrow.
I'll see it tomorrow.
Yeah, I was like, I just was feeling good about today. I wasn't even thinking that I was going to have to go home and work all night long to produce something tomorrow. And, and that's what it means. Like, it's just, that pause, that why isn't something happening? That means like, I wanted this yesterday. So, so I knew how to make a mohawk so that, that cemented my position a little bit. And then from then on, it's like, she was so genius because she really thought like all those mohawks and undercuts, they translated every section of that show. They went from punk to the geisha section. All you had to do was attach more hair onto those mohawks, and you take something punk rock and it becomes like a samurai, and then we slicked it back. Or we wet it down for the cowboy section. They all had hats, but then we slicked it all back and it was wet for the Spanish section.
Yeah.
And it looked beautiful. It was androgynous. It was mysterious. And that was the shape that worked. And, So I busted my ass and I got with the millinery department. I said, can we make stuff together? I know how to do this, but I don't know how to construct this. And so the more pieces that I made that got approved by her, the more likely it was that I was going to go on the tour. And so that was my tryout. Does that answer the question?
Oh, no, it totally does. Well, no, I mean, so now what are your responsibilities day to day on the road through the Drowned World Tour?
Okay.
And how did you, like, for example, when you started the tour, how did you develop and how much more were you doing towards the end?
Well, so once the responsibility is make her happy and produce things that make her happy. Every section gets a lineup where you line everybody up, and she walks up and she looks each cast member up and down, and she's like, I like this, that's got to go, that's horrible, get rid of that, replace this with this. And then once the look is set, it's really you're doing the same thing over and over, but you have to keep everything looking perfect. So it's a lot of maintenance to keep those pieces fresh. And you also have to make duplicates in case you lose something or in case something falls apart. So you're constantly creating something. But what you're doing also is you're doing the same thing over and over again, and you're getting better and better, and you're getting faster and faster. And then a lot of times you get to a new city and the hair doesn't perform the way that it did in another climate. And you have to figure it out. You have to fix it, because she's not going to take humidity as an answer or an excuse,
No.
So you got to figure it out.
Sorry, Madonna, we're in Miami. That's just how the hair is going to respond.
Oh, I have a Madam X Miami fiasco, but
we are traveling down that on the road. We are almost. I want to get to. We'll fast track from Drowned World Tour to. Let's flash forward a little bit to 2007.
Okay.
And you were rejoining Madonna on another world tour, known as Sticky and Sweet. But this time, you got a promotion.
I did.
So you jumped ahead. You are now the head of the Glam squad.
Oh, amazing.
Which is amazing. Well, how do your responsibilities change from what you were doing on Drowned World Tour to now you're in charge of the department?
Exactly, because this time now you're the guy that she's talking to, right?
Right. So, which is wonderful, but it's also scary because everything that messes up is on me. It's not anybody else's fault. It's my fault. And there's a lot of trial and error. And I didn't realize that, the first time you have a job, when somebody's above you and you're like, oh, I could do that. Well, then you get in that position and you realize that it's not that easy. And, but I was glad to be back because I didn't do a reinvention. I didn't do confessions. And I kind of thought my Madonna journey was over. And then just by accident, I was emailing somebody for tickets for, again, Roseland Ballroom. And I dug up an old email address and I reached out to Jamie King's, the rehearsal director, Stephanie. Mm-hmm. And I said, is there any possibility I can get into Madonna at Roseland? And she's texted me back, I'm going to call you later tonight. And then she calls me back and she said, can you come in tomorrow? And I said, what do you mean? And she said, we need you. So they were calling me into work. And I was like, I just wanted to take it, but I'll take it. And so I did the promo. And then, I got quickly the person that was going to head the team. They were like, he's not going to work out. And he was kind of too much of a fan. Which changes the atmosphere a little, changes the chemistry if somebody kind of has not an intention, but if it's just doesn't always work. The focus isn't the same. So they said, do you want to be the head for promo and travel with us? And I said yes. And then I fell in love with the dancers. I was so happy to see all the road cases and the Moiras, our mirrors, our makeup mirrors, we call them the Moiras. And I can tell you about that later. But But I just was like, I want to go. And then I got to be the one to audition people. And we did have an audition. And I got to be the one that told people, you got the job. And I'm so happy. And I also got to tell the team, I said, I want you to remember this first day, how you feel, because we're going to get to a place on the tour where you are going to hate me. We're going to hate each other. We're going to be sick of each other. And then we're going to get to a place in the tour where it's going to be coming to an end. And when the tour is finished, we're not going to see each other the same way. This is a family. This is not an easy job. You're going to hate it sometimes, but remember this first day. Mm-hmm. And keep that with you, because and if you need other inspiration than that, just look at Madonna, because if you think your job is hard, she's working 5 times as hard as anybody else in this room. So
yeah. No, I love how it's very generous of you to take everything that you learned and you just you kind of gave them a hack. You're like, okay, here's how it is, and no one gave you that the first time. So that's really great. That makes you a great boss, and
thank you.
And I can see, I can see it in the work, I mean, everything was just exact and gorgeous. I mean, I'm thinking of like all the looks in Sticky and Sweet, and I'm sure you had to do all the dancers too, like the Japanese dancers. They looked amazing too,
yeah.
Right?
It was intricate, and one thing about that was the things that looked so simple were really some of the hardest looks to achieve. Like there was that section where she wanted everybody. It was like the La Isla section, and she wanted all the girls to have waist long, straight hair or wavy hair with like a uniform wave, center part. But none of these girls really had that hair, and we didn't have time. Like we have 3 minutes to get a change done. We didn't have time to make that perfect. So there was a lot of nights during the run-throughs, during rehearsals, where they would walk up and just like a frizz ball of hair. And they're walking by Madonna, and she's like on the microphone, who put that on your head? It would be my name coming out. I was like, oh my God, I'm going home.
I'm not doing a show until the frizz is gone.
Exactly.
Well, so wait, for on the promo tour, so Justin was on that promo tour in New York.
Oh my God!
Did you get to do anything for JT?
No, I didn't, but I met him. He was so cool. I mean, we were all standing in the hallway, and all of a sudden, security comes up, and they're like, "Everybody, stay there," and that means she's coming out or she's coming through or something. And her dressing room door opens, and out walks this. He's tall and just beautiful, and just he just has this swagger, and he walked right over to where we were, and he like put out his hand. He's like, "Hey, I'm Justin," like shaking everybody's hand, and like just like he was just cool. But we didn't get to do anything with him. He has his own team.
No oiling up of Justin.
I mean, we would have been right there for that,
Serious. Sign me up. He looked good in those days.
Yeah, for sure.
So now that you were talking about like, you had like X amount of time, this brings me to the Super Bowl, because talk about a time crunch. I mean, you guys tell us about the lead up to, on the night of, to get her ready. She has to go on stage for almost 12 minutes and get it right, and then it's over. So it's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of moving parts, and I'm sure that everyone's trying to do their job and stay out of each other's way. But how did that happen?
It was the most stressful one out of all of the short shows, because again, like all the moving parts, and that stage goes together in under 6 minutes. They assemble that stage in the middle of the football field, and there was just a lot of logistics that because of security, everybody couldn't be in the actual football stadium.
Right.
We're not used to that. We had people getting ready in a high school that was like 2 miles away from where we were.
Being like school bussed over.
No, exactly. I'm not kidding you. In a school bus, they were bussed over, I'm sure. Actually, probably a tour bus, but I like the school bus thing. But and also what was really complex about that was she had these 20 cheerleaders, and she wanted them all in a black bob, like this sleek black bob. And when they showed up, these girls all had like tons of hair. And so, we get them all in a black bob wig and we pin that stuff on. And by this point in my career, I know how to pin a wig on so it's going to stay on, right? But these girls, when they started doing the choreography, they're not cheerleaders. They're like competitive dancers. They looked as if their limbs, like as if their joints were made of elastic. Their heads are shaking. Their hips are swinging. And all of a sudden, I see a black thing fly through the air and land like 2 feet away from M's shoes. And she's dancing.
God.
I was like, "What is that?" And then all of a sudden, it's gone. Like the minute it hits the stage, it's gone in like a split second. Somebody swept it off. And then all of a sudden, I see 2 more black things. And then I looked up and I was like, the wigs are flying off. The wigs are all flying off the dancers. One by one, by the time that number was finished in rehearsal, the first time that we had put them in the wigs, every single one had come off, except for one, and it was backwards.
Oh my God. Do you know how close to being fired you are?
Just what?
Do you know how close to being fired you are?
Every day, like that, every day. But then, eventually we figured it out, and it sounds so archaic and horrible, but we ended up sewing those wigs into their actual hair.
Wow.
Which meant to take it off, we had to cut through little threads and not cut off any of their hair.
Right.
And I swear, after 3 run-throughs of the wigs not flying off, of course she comes up and she's like, "So, this girl and this girl, can I see them without their wigs?" And they had to call me up on stage, and I said, "I can do that for you, but it's going to take like 15 minutes each girl." And she said, "Why?"
Can you do it faster?
I said, "We had to sew the wigs onto their heads." And she said, "All of them? They're all sewn into their wigs?" And I said, "Yes, that was the only way we had for them to not come off." And then she kind of gave me this look like, "Oh, okay, she's like, "That's hardcore. I can appreciate that."
Right.
Moving on.
It's almost like you're a little crazy, and she was like, I didn't realize you were actually at that level of crazy just yet, but okay.
It's like, Em, we're just doing what you want.
Right. Exactly.
Well, so with the Super Bowl, I mean, that's a lot of eyeballs. Not only in stadium, but just around the country.
Yeah.
A lot of people are going to look at that, so there's a lot of pressure. Are you, as part of the Glam Squad, and on the tours as well, are you creatively involved in the process more than just like being at the table and she's like, shave their heads? Or are you like, is she consulting with you on any ideas? Or is it like she's got her ideas and you're just executing?
Okay, so that is an excellent question. And I think the short answer for that would be that, a lot of those creative meetings and discussions happen before I'm even brought into the room, before I'm even brought on board to production. So, and maybe to better explain, I can break down the departments. And so there's Glam, which is what I do. That's my department, and we handle the cast. So we do the dancers and the background vocalist and sometimes the band members, and that is our focus. And then separate from that, there's M's Glam, and that's part of the tour personnel that's brought on way before we come in. And M Glam is the costume designers, the stylists, and then her hair and her makeup. And just to make sure that the proper credit is noted, M Glam from reinvention all the way up to and through MD and A, her hair and makeup is Andy LeCompte is her hairstylist, and Gina Brooke is her makeup artist, and that includes Super Bowl also. Yeah. And then that changed for Rebel Heart. Aaron Henriksen came on board, and Andy LeCompte is still there. That's a long time, and that's a lot of changes, that Andy's really responsible for. So, major props to that.
Mm-hmm.
But, so that's kind of how things work. So there's a lot of stuff that is decided before we are brought on. And, mainly when we get there, we're executing what's already been established.
I mean, I think, Tony and I speak to a lot of people who have worked with her. You read a lot in the press. People aren't giving Madonna the proper credit that I think she deserves, either as a musician
or as a creative.
Creative. And I think a lot of people think it's not Madonna putting this together. It's a creative team behind the scenes that we don't see.
Oh, no. Yeah, that is no. She has amazing people. She works with the top of everybody that, like, she has her choice. She really handpicks people. But no, the artistic direction, she has so much to do with it.
Corvette, I have to give you guys props because one of the best looks in her career is the opening of the Super Bowl when she comes out with the crown and the cape and the whole
that entrance,
Cleopatra thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, it was literally breathtaking. It took my breath away. So I'm so glad that I'm talking to one of the people responsible for that look.
Yeah. It was a really fun look, I work on the dancers and she had a really amazing look that she wanted for them. She really wanted this like Blade Runner sleek, Sean Young, like we did like all these kind of like rolls in the hair, but it almost had to look like Alien. So it was like Alien, but Egyptian, but Blade Runner, futuristic, but ancient, and it was really fun to work on.
Yeah, and all of us that love her and know her, we got it immediately. I was like, oh, I get all these references, because it's Madonna.
Yeah.
And with the Super Bowls, before we move on to Madame X, I want to just say, with an event like the Super Bowl, because it's such a high-profile event, you're practicing like this from start to finish. That involves the makeup and the hair and the costume, like. When she does a run through, you're doing all of that as if it's the day of the show.
Yeah, she wants to see the whole thing. Mm-hmm. She doesn't we don't half-ass anything on a run through. It is full on everything, hair and makeup. Even though we could say it doesn't make sense to use the wigs. They're getting trashed every time we do this. Like no, we got to.
Why would you say that? You can buy more.
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about Madame X.
Yeah. Okay.
So speaking of wigs, Madame X had plenty, and in 2019, you were brought back. You were ahead of the Glam Squad again for the Madame X tour. You technically were involved with the Pride performance, which was like the official kickoff of the Madame X tour era.
Yeah.
Were you already sort of deeply entrenched in the Madame X tour rehearsals and process by the time Pride happened? And were there a lot of changes from like style choices from Pride to the opening of the tour?
Okay, so no, I was not deeply entrenched. I had received a text message, would you be interested in another tour? And then I got a phone call that said, then the announcement that Madonna was doing Pride. And that was such a big deal because I'd been to the, Pride Island is technically the pier dance. And I'd been to the pier dance for many years. And there's always that little rumor that goes through the performance tonight is Madonna. She's here. Finally, she came. But it's, it never was. And, they got a lot of divas to do that stage. And it, she never did it. And I actually even wrote an email to her people. I was like, I just want to make sure this is on her radar because everybody wants her there. And so then it's announced that she's doing it. And then that day they call me and they're like, do you want to do Pride? And imagine that gay teenage kid getting to do gay Pride with Madonna at World Pride.
World Pride,
yeah. And so I was like, bring it on, and so, but then quickly that all of a sudden, like, we were in over our heads. We had so much work to do in such a short amount of time. And we really had to perfect this sort of like film noir, Grace Kelly sort of, you saw the blonde wig, the blonde hair.
Yeah. And everybody had a blonde wig.
Yeah. So we had to do like, I don't know, we had to do like 16 of them. And they all had to be perfect, and they all had to be fitted, and each one had to look amazing on the dancer that it goes on. And so, but that job, that there was almost no stress to that, because the just the idea of what we were doing was so beautiful, and to be on that stage while that was happening, and to feel that love coming from the audience, that even I know they were crushing each other to see her, but there was such energy, and and also, what, I fell in love with the dancers. That I fell in love with all the dancers, and I was like, at the my life was a little different. I was married, I had a kid, but then I learned that the tour was going to be the theater tour, and I said, what I always wanted to do that one. I also always wanted to do 3. And so we looked at the routing, and my husband and I were like, we can do this. I can go. It's residencies. I'll fly you guys out. We'll be together every month. And it was a lot of work, but we made it work. And
did you tell your husband it was going to be a lot of very late nights?
Okay,
right.
Let me tell you. So the first part of getting that job was they invited me to a rehearsal. So I show up to the rehearsal at 2 in the afternoon, and they said, "So there's no room for you. We don't know how we're going to fit you in this show." And I was like, "What are you trying to say? There's no room." And then I realized it was a physical, spatial thing. There's no room in the theater for, like, we're used, like in a stadium, we're under stage. In an arena, we're under the stage. In a theater, it doesn't, there's no orchestra, and the wings aren't that big for that cast that she had in that show. And they're like, there's no room for the cast. We don't know where there's room for Glam. And we're like, well, she wants Glam, right? And
right, where are you going to store all those wigs?
Right. So they're like, no, we know it's just a logistic problem. We don't know how to fix it. And they say, how few people can you do this cast with?
Oh, geez.
And so, and I hadn't even seen the cast yet, but I show up to this rehearsal, and I see, like, this cast is just exploding. More and more people start walking through the door. And I'm like, where did they come from? Oh, they're coming from music rehearsal. Oh, here comes the dancers. There's the band, and then the Batucadera Orchestra.
Oh my gosh, the Batucaderas. Oh my God.
I'm like, how? We can't do this. They're like, no, you've got to do this. It's like figure it out. And anyway, so back to the late nights. I showed up at that rehearsal at 2 in the afternoon. I left that rehearsal at 4:30 in the morning. And I was like, okay, this is new. This is interesting. I never, like, the sun is coming up, and I'm totally sober. And I'm like, I just came from work. Like, what am I going to do? But that geared us up for what was in store.
I just saw online today that the twins turned 9, and I'm like, they were 7 on tour, staying up past my bedtime.
Yeah, those girls are amazing.
They had fun, and it was great to see them on stage.
Oh my gosh, talking about just amazing star quality, and just beautiful, beautiful, beautiful stories. Those girls, her family's really amazing.
So for Madame X, I'm curious. It was a very different structure of a tour for Madonna from the big stadium shows. Did that nature of the intimate nature of the show, did that change your job a little bit, other than the spatialness of it? But or was it even more complex? Like, you'd think, oh, it's a smaller show, it'll be easier. Or was it more challenging?
No, it was harder. It was the most complex one to put together. And when I first saw the set, it was interesting because it kind of had echo to like the Blonde Ambition set, where just structurally it resembled that set somehow, but nothing moved. There's not one mechanical piece on that set. Everything was moved by human power, and also it was all silver. Like it was all just like one color. And so we're like, how is this going to come to life? Well, it did, but it was a lot of work. It was a lot of notes, and it was a lot of lineups, and a lot of the lineups we had to redo them again, because I'll tell you what was different. The close range of the audience. Also, there's no smoke in Madame X. There's nothing to really soften the edges, and there's not a lot of effects because you can't really do a lot of things in a theater. So it was very close up. And you know what? I'll tell you an amazing thing about, just how she works, and also just back to like when you were saying about the artistic vision and how many people are involved. And yes, there's a million people working their asses off, but we would come to notes every night, and sometimes she would just be like, you know what, this looks beautiful, but it's not it. It's not it yet. And she would say, add more this, add more green, add more that. Like, I want to see this. And I would actually look at those spots and I'd be like, it looks actually pretty beautiful to me. But when I saw opening night, when I saw some of those pieces, I was like, oh, she was right. It was not, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't brilliant yet. And she kept pushing and pushing and pushing and, and making it brilliant. And, and her eye is just so, like, everybody will tell you about how meticulous that eye is. And just, there were nights and notes where she would say, well, okay, this dancer, this dancer, this dancer, this dancer, and Come Alive, I don't really love their robes. Actually, I hate them. And it was like it turned out that those robes were not Versace, but the other ones were. They were like, they had sold out. They bought all the robes and they bought all the doubles, and they didn't have enough for the full cast, so they bought fake ones. And she spotted all the fakes, and
she knew. Oh, how funny!
Yeah, get Donatella on the phone immediately.
I mean, I actually think she had to, because I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but that was the one time I ever heard in notes. I heard an excuse pop out for why they all weren't Versace. And she was like, oh, really? Like, she just had this look, and I was like, oh, she's going to call Donatella. And I don't know what happened, but the next day, those robes were there,
Heads will roll.
Some Italian intern was up in the middle of the night, FedExing them across the country.
Yeah. FedExing them? He had to fly them himself.
Yeah, she makes it happen. Do you remember the Crave number?
Yes.
Where everybody just like, how...
Oh my God! The outfits in Crave were wonderful. I was so happy that we got to see her in Brooklyn before Crave started getting cut in the later show, because I was like, some of the coats and the disco style of that was heavenly. I'm like, I know I can't afford any of these, but I want to wear these outfits for Halloween. Like, they were beautiful.
You're right. And it was like a retro chic look, but it was brand new. I'd never seen it before.
Right.
It was evocative of the 70s, but it was also so glam. And
so good. I loved the coats.
So you guys are right. None of us really can afford that. And I hope I don't get in trouble for this, because I'm going to tell you that lineup happened a few times, and she was like, it's not doing it. And then one time she just leaned over to her assistant, like halfway through the lineup, and I swear, like 20 minutes later, racks of clothing started coming through the wings of the theater onto the stage. Racks and racks of clothing. She started saying, okay, I want this on. She started dressing them herself. And then trays of jewels started coming out, and she started putting on their jewelry for them and the sunglasses. She's like, I want this. I want this. So 20 minutes later, completely different look. The clothing disappears, and she's like, okay, this is it. And we found out later that those were her personal clothes. So
Madonna.
she brought in, yeah, and I think some of them you can see that they were she wore I think one of them she wore in a video or something, but like no, they were all like her own personal wardrobe, and so that's why it looks so amazing.
See, Corvette, it's important to tell these stories because so many negative things get thrown around about Madonna, and a lot of it gets filed under, well, it's her work ethic, but you know, she can be a generous artist, and you know, and she wants to see her vision done correctly, and yeah. I love to hear these details because you don't really get to hear this, you know, all the time.
Right.
This is not what gets published, you know.
No, it's you see it happening, and you see the work of an artist, and you see what happens when you don't take no for an answer, and you keep pushing. And, you know, I remember there was this one night in Lisbon, and she was just having a very human moment. And we were all in the prayer. And she said, she's like, I'm sorry. I push you guys so hard. I know I push you guys so hard, and I'm sorry. And we were like, no, we're grateful. We're like, you have no idea. You've elevated our craft, and you've elevated the way we work. And we all thought we were working hard, but thank you for that, because, you know, that's how it happens, by pushing.
Are you excited to see Madam X, the tour film on Paramount Plus? Have you seen it?
1,000,000%. No, because it's not. I don't think I can talk about it, but it's still, you know, they're still perfecting it.
It's still in post-production. Yeah.
It's a lot. There's, I love everybody that worked on this project, so it's going to be beautiful. And,
can't wait.
You know, this tour came at a very specific time for the world, you know, and, I'm sorry to keep getting so political, but like, when this tour came out, look where we were. Things were really bad. We were so divided, and people, there was so much hatred and so much violence. And I'm not saying that that's not the case anymore, but, you know, there was a story inside of the context of this, like the message inside of this show, that we all kind of felt like the world needed this message, you know, and then to have this, experience shut down, like we only lost 2 shows, but like it ended not in a regular celebration, but it ended in a global pandemic, and we all came home and we were separated from each other. So the fact that we've had to wait this long for the film to come out, I feel like it was not intentional, but it's a beautiful thing that we had to wait, because I'm excited all over again to see it.
Me too.
I'm excited, especially because there's no footage on the internet. We've not seen this stuff. So I think it's kind of genius that we had to wait so long. So, but
yeah, I've famously complained about that on the show. But
yes, I heard.
the minute I hit stream, it's going to be all gone.
Yeah.
Okay. I have to ask about the wigs on Madam X. I stood behind Madonna when she sat in the beer seat, and all I could really, focus on was the top of her head and the quality of her wig. Yeah. Here I am, someone who's never even handled a wig in my life. So tell us about like the quality, the quantity of the wigs, and like who's taking care of all that? Because I mean, that's a lot to follow up on, right?
It is, and they're not from 14th Street. They're
not from Hairtronics on Atlantic Avenue.
No, I mean, I'll throw myself under the bus. That there was lineups where she was like, "What is on your head? Who put that on your head? Oh, Corvette did it. Oh, well, please throw it in the trash. Thank you." Like, I was like, "Oh my God." And and I think actually that might have been a cheap wig. We sometimes just try everything, but these wigs, these wigs were actually film quality wigs.
Yeah,
which was
the blonde wig is perfection. I mean, it's like from a Hitchcock movie.
It is, but a film wig is made so that it's not that you can't see it on high def film. Right. You can't see the seam. Mm-hmm. But in a theater, a film wig is a nightmare because it's constructed. It's the lace that it's constructed on is so fine. So I actually had to learn the craft of how to repair it and how to replace the lace and how to keep sewing it together, because on this one we didn't really have doubles because we didn't have space to sew them. We had 2 doubles and that was it. And so the wigs were a big deal on this one.
Yeah.
Well, they looked incredible, especially the black short wig.
Oh my gosh, that wig was incredible.
Yeah. That wig was gorgeous. And that whole look was gorgeous. And that, I loved that whole sequence. And
what I have a question you just sparked in my mind. Huh? What happens to all that stuff after the tour? Where does
archive,
it go?
Baby,
yeah,
archive.
I wasn't going to say that, but yeah. So you already know. There's an archive.
Okay.
Yeah, there is. And I've seen things appear from out of the archives. And I've been to one location of not the actual archive where the costumes are, but I've been to there's a warehouse where like all of our cases are. And
I see.
But I don't want to hear another word. I don't want to hear.
I'm just asking because I just want to make sure it's not all thrown out.
Oh no, it is labeled and it is meticulously cleaned and it's stored somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, cut to us in about 40 years, with our walkers going to the Met to see Madonna's
for a Madonna expose at the Met. I'm sure that they'll have one eventually. The costumes of Madonna.
Yeah, I mean, how fabulous would that be?
If it could be anything like the Jean-Paul Gaultier exhibit that they have at the Brooklyn Museum, bring it. Like I'd be there in a heartbeat. Yeah. Because that exhibit was phenomenal.
It was flawless. To see that stuff up close.
Oh yeah. It was amazing. Yeah. It was amazing.
Yeah. I never thought I'd find myself crying in the middle of the Brooklyn Museum, but there I was.
Tony cries. So Tony and I saw Madame X in Brooklyn a handful of times. Okay. And I kid you not, every time the Batucaderas were coming down the aisle, I would just pass Tony a napkin or a tissue. Here you go, Tony. And
so that moment. So I'm a crier too, but that moment made me cry so many times. The positioning in the show where it's after that duet where there's like these soldiers that want to kill each other and then they realize that they're connected and they're both human, and if you saw the version that had the girls, those girls are actually sisters, and to end with a death in a casket and that moment, and then all of a sudden you hear the ocean and you hear the waves of the ocean and then you hear the sound, and then when those women start walking from the back of the house and they have their drums and the music and the whole thing, and when I got to see them in Lisbon performing that, I walked out because I was like, I would always sneak out to see that entrance, but I was like, I have to see it in Lisbon, and I walked out and I was bawling. I was just to see them back in their homeland and see the reception of the Portuguese people watching that happen.
Sure.
It was a big deal.
Yeah. No, it was a beautiful moment. There were so many beautiful moments in that tour. It's hard to pick like what was my favorite. But,
you can't.
Tony, is it time for your favorite portion of the show?
Well, yes, Stefan. It is time for my favorite part of the podcast.
Okay, who likes this and who doesn't? Is there?
We both love this moment of the show. I'm teasing Tony because Tony's usually the one who brings it up. But I think it's time for a little lightning round. So as we do on the podcast, we ask a couple off the top of your head questions. Wherever you're at in your Madonna journey right now, don't think too hard.
All right.
Favorite Madonna song?
Okay, this is unfair. I'm going to answer your question, but I have a personal connection to her songs. The catalog is too big and so much variety, and so I feel...
Today, what's your favorite Madonna song today?
I'm going to say Vogue is the most perfect song because it showcases everything that she does so beautifully. There's the spoken part, that you have that gorgeous chesty part, and then they have like that screaming, like that, not screaming, but like when she's like, get up on the dance floor, and you hear that scratch in her voice that was very particular to that era. That and the message, Vogue. I'm going to say Vogue.
Dance. Favorite Madonna music video?
Justify My Love.
So good.
Chic.
Revolutionary.
Yes.
Yeah.
Favorite Madonna tour?
Confessions.
Oh, not one that you worked on.
Well, you know what? Because I didn't work on it, I got to see it from a fan point of view, that from an audience perspective, and I'm so glad that I did, because you get to see all the reveals, and and for the first time.
So it's not things were a surprise.
Yeah, and it was gorgeous.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we always say it was very expensive.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Favorite Madonna movie?
Susan.
Yeah, classic. You can't go wrong with Despacito and Susan.
No.
And so, favorite Madonna look, and this can be from a video, a tour, in person.
Something you helped create.
Yes.
You know what? I really have a hard time with this too. But like there's the wet hair look on Harper's Bazaar magazine with the Gautier. That's
from Blonde Ambition.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it was so different. It was so gorgeous.
Corvette, let me tell you, my mother subscribed to all those fashion magazines, and when I saw that Harper's Bazaar for May 1990, when I got home from school, I started shaking. I opened it up. I cut every single photo out, and I put them on my wall. And she's like, "Where's my Harper's Bazaar?" I was like, "I didn't see it. I must have not been delivered, you know." But yeah, that was. I'd never seen her like that, and it made me so excited for Blind Ambition, because I was like, if this is what she's doing, then it's nothing we've never seen, you know?
Absolutely. I'm glad you got to steal your mom's magazines. I had to steal them from the grocery store and my dentist.
Wait, so Corvette, I don't think we covered this. Wait, what? So you had been vying to tell Madonna that she saved your life. Did you get to tell her this?
Well, I have to save that. I have to hold on to that, because yes, I did.
Okay.
I did, but it was...
You're saving it for your memoir?
Yeah, it was a journey. It was a 20-year journey to get to that moment, because, I worked in a professional capacity, and I kind of like at the end of every tour, I would orchestrate this moment that was supposed to happen, and it just didn't happen. And then
it has to be the right moment.
It has to be the right moment, and when it did happen, it was perfect, and it was like, it wasn't me thanking her. I actually had resigned I was like, I just work for her. That's my thank you. Mm-hmm. But there was one time when she needed something and I came to do it, and she told me, she was like, thank you. You just saved my life. And I said, actually, so I got to have like a moment and not have it not be too fan, but like she quickly was like, let's move on, but yes, it did. And I also, you know what, I want to, if you will give me permission, I would love to turn the tables on you boys.
Oh, Lord.
And
here we go.
If you're versatile, I would love, I have a lightning round for you. I have just one question.
Okay.
So, and I'm going to simplify it a little bit. So I want to know favorite live performance of Vogue.
Tony, you go first.
Favorite live performance of Vogue would have to be the final show of Blonde Ambition that was on HBO Live from Nice. I just loved the way that her hair just melted, wet. You know what I mean? And it was wet. And she looked so free, and she, obviously knew it was the last show, so she was like putting everything into it. And I just felt like she looked so athletic. Yeah. She looked so flexible, and perfect. And
you could feel the last show energy of that.
Yeah,
you could see it in their faces.
I actually compare every performance of Vogue to that one.
Okay, all right.
It's like a little bit,
My favorite performance of Vogue, and I've said this many a time, the 1990 VMA performance of Vogue in the whole Victorian era. Yeah. I remember when she did that, and I was watching it live on MTV, and I was actually annoyed that she had done this long, big Victorian gown, and because she couldn't do the Running Man, and I was like, how is she going to Vogue properly? She can't do the video this way,
right.
And I was so pissed that she had changed it. But I look back on that and think, that was so ballsy to change it, to do this crazy look, to make it opulent, and I just like, she looks so gorgeous. And the faces that she's serving throughout that entire thing, the looks, the fan, it is so diva and so brilliant. And she's not quite ever done a performance like that ever again. And I think people wanted her to, and she hasn't. And I love that she denies it from us, because it's like, thank you for giving it to us, but you've never given it to us again. And I love how she looks in that, and that when they're all standing, standing ovation for her, and she just gives that little face to the audience of like, yeah, you love me. And I love that performance.
Yeah, and I was too young to realize that she was presenting the definition of Vogue by doing that set piece, you know, and I'm just looking at it going like, oh, I don't understand what's going on. She's not, and I'm like, wow, she's basically defining camp right now. You know?
She's doing drag. Yeah. She was in drag doing that performance,
Yeah, it was genius.
And and that's one thing I love about Madonna, is that she's taught me so many things just by presenting them to me, and she doesn't handhold us, she just kind of says like, this is what I'm doing. And then you do the research, and then you're like, wow, I'm a better person now.
Yeah, so much.
Well, Corvette, I feel like we could talk and talk and talk and talk. I mean, we had plans to cover off your hair cutting career and your tattoo parlor. And
I know, I wanted to talk about
part two of this.
I wanted to talk about Perfidia from the Pyramid Club and from Pat Field. I'm just missing all those people around.
It's such a time capsule, right?
I know, but we'll definitely have you back here.
Yeah, we're going to have to have you back. Sorry, twist your arm. We're just going to have to do it.
Consider yourself a friend of the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you, boys, so much. This was amazing.
I'm really glad that you came on the show. This was so much fun.
Thank you.
So please tell everyone where they can find you on social media.
Oh, you know what? I'm not a social media person. I have an Instagram account, but I don't really do it very well. I
have so much respect for you. Yeah, just share your Instagram account.
It's Mr. Corvette. Whatever, Mr. Corvette.
We'll tag you. Yeah. We'll give you a little social love.
All right, that's cool.
You can find us on Instagram and Twitter at MLVC Podcast. Please give us a 5-star review, like and subscribe. Tell your friends. Share it with someone who's never heard of Madonna. You never know what's going to happen. You can also donate to the podcast on Venmo at MLVC Podcast, and there's also our Patreon page on Podbean.
Corvette,
yes.
Can you plug us on anything that's coming up? Can you share any upcoming projects that you want to plug?
Yeah, I have some writing projects coming up, but I don't talk about them until they've already been published and it's happened. So, but I will always post that stuff on my Instagram. So
and you can always come and talk about it on our show.
Oh, yeah.
And how will you be celebrating the Madame X tour on Paramount Plus? Are you having a viewing party?
No, I actually have an invitation to go to the premiere. So,
Can you tell us anything about the premiere?
Live stream on your
you
on
think
your
that's
Instagram?
you think that's gonna happen? You think they're not gonna take our phones away?
Ain't happening.
I plan on wearing my Madame X tour jacket and celebrating in style. So.
Amazing.
I'll probably do what happens every Friday night. I'll start streaming something, and 20 minutes into it, I'll be asleep. So.
All right. We all have a plan. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Thanks, you guys.
All right, boys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks again. And until next time.
See you next time, guys.
All right.
Go out there and do your thing.
Last screening of Madame X. Before the rest of the world sees it. Wish me luck. Madame X is here to disturb the peace.